Okay, this is from the Irish Sun. Dark days. I was humiliated and locked up on Scientology's ship by cult's godlike founder. But I heard something even more chilling. You guys know how I keep screaming and hollering about these ships. So I'm a little weirded out when I see people talking out about their experience on the Apollo, anyways, the Royal Scotsman, and then there was another one. There were a few other ones. And they don't say anything about the R's, the deaths, or the bluicides. I was humiliated and locked up on Scientology's ship by cult's godlike founder, but I heard something even more chilling. Danielle is still haunted by the horrors she witnessed growing up as a member of the infamous cult. Sun Reporter published 17 December 2024. It sounds like a scene from a Hollywood horror film. A terrified 12-year-old girl, locked up, troll, and surviving on just scraps of food in the rusty, dark, damp hull of a ship. But this was the harsh reality for Danielle Chamberlain, who grew up within Scientology and was sent by her mom to serve at the religion's prestigious Sea organization. See if there's other pictures. No. Danielle Chamberlain recalls a chapter of her life spent serving on Scientology's ship Apollo when she was a young girl after boarding in 1973. That was before the death of Susan Meister. Susan Meister died, allegedly it was a bluicide, in 1971. And I believe Janice Gilman was on the ship during that time. And so were other people. But again, too, you all know how good they are at hiding these things. So, and we have to remember, the kids on those ships were children. I had no idea what was waiting for me aboard that ship, but it was nothing short of child abuse, recalls retired Danielle, now 63. All these years she waited to tell her story, you guys. Danielle's voice matters. What I saw there still haunts me to this day. And also, too, it just makes me think, on the book, The Commodore's Messenger, and no shade to Janice, because she probably has her reasons. But it's just, I know there was more going on. And everybody has their own reason for, and traumas that they're dealing with, so. The married mom of two claims she endured countless terrifying incidents within the secretive world of Scientology. Scientology, your secrets of abuse are coming out. The most infamous cult on the planet. Isn't that a great way to introduce them? Hit headlines once again recently when its West Sussex, UK headquarters hosted its lavish annual ball last month. Isn't that a wonderful thing to say about them? Locking children up in engine rooms, throwing children over deck on these ships, Apollo and the other ones. Locking children in closets and underneath stairwells like the Australian kid. Ironing the children, covering it up. But don't worry, you guys. They hosted a lavish ball. Its illustrious supporter actor Tom Cruise. Okay, you guys. I'm going to try to stay on course here. I'm going to try to stay on course. Is believed to have been in attendance traveling to the soiree in his private helicopter. Who cares? Thrown overboard as punishment. What'd I just say? And how many of these children couldn't swim? You cannot tell me there were no deaths of these children. I don't believe it. It was in September 1973 when wide-eyed Danielle was first thrown into the religion. How many laws were broken there? She claims to have witnessed barbaric cruelty at the hands of the religion's controversial American founder, allegedly, known as LRH, aboard the Atlantic-based Apollo. One of his punishments, he called them ethics, saw him throw people into the freezing sea even if they couldn't swim. I just was saying that. And she's just to clear all of this up, we're talking about children. Yeah, they threw some of the adults, but a lot of them were children. Imagine the trauma, you guys. And someone would eventually go in after them. Scientology gave the answers to life, right. Danielle and her family moved to West Sussex a month earlier from South Africa to be close to Scientology's headquarters at St. Hill, East Grinstead. Aren't you guys glad there's a nice little Scientology ad in the middle of all this? Isn't that wonderful? When the walls come tumbling down. She says, my mother was bohemian and smart. Scientology gave the answers to life itself and the promise of more life beyond this one. Its purpose is to clear the planet. All of these various religions and so-called cults all have these same type of goals. I'm definitely going to have to keep this cute little picture. They all have the same goals, and it's basically forget your individuality, and the group comes first, just like Brave New World. In order to achieve that level of clear as an individual, you dedicated your life to training program, moving through the ranks. Cute little girl. She looks sad. Doesn't that cute little girl look sad? Danielle would go to school before studying, that's indoctrination, and working at Scientology's UK headquarters. Isn't that great that she was working at, what, 5? Isn't that wonderful, you guys? Maybe we should just, get rid of all laws and just have kids in the factories like they did back in the 20s. I was terrified. Danielle started at West Sussex State School, so she was going to regular school, but recalls being collected each day by bus. Where have we seen that before? Taken to St. Hill to study and do housework. Thank God all these adult Scientologists have the kids to do their maid work. Where her mom also worked and studied. A month later, she was sent to Lisbon to join the Sea organization aboard the Apollo. How old is she? Which was considered an honor. I believe somewhere she said she was 6 years old, around there. Arriving at the port, Danielle recalls Hubbard stood on deck before she was shown to a damp, dark dormitory, which she shared with 4 older women. He was like God to us. I was terrified, she says. Well, gratefully, as traumatic as this is, and I'm not negating it or minimizing it, thank goodness she could speak English. Because some of these children from different countries, they do the exact same things, whether it's the ship, whether it's the birthing in Florida or California or Celebrity Center, and they don't even speak a word of English. I've read stories like that. It's just breaks my heart. I was a snipe steward, serving meals to the engineers and cleaning. Keep that in mind, you guys. Anybody who says they were an engineer on the Apollo or the river, there's another boat, River something, and Royal Scotsman, which I believe Royal Scotsman and Apollo is the same ship, I think. Keep that in mind. Because those folks were just fine to have the children doing all the cleaning. It was physically tough, but I didn't mind it at first. You guys know it's going to get worse. Pretty little blonde girl. You guys know. The engineers were kind, and I just kept my head down. Well, at least they were kind. Were the engineers Scientologists, you guys? Do you know? She was sent to join the Sea Organization on board flagship Apollo. Credit, this is Janice Grady's picture. Janice isn't her other name Gillum, I believe. A guy ripped my... I knew it was going to get worse, you guys. I'm going to be real careful with this one. A guy ripped my top off. Danielle wrote letters to her mom as they sailed the Canary Islands. What on God's earth would make a mother or a father think that it was ever okay to just hand their daughters over, especially young ones like this, onto a ship with a bunch of men on it? Like, supervised days went away from the boat were granted on Liberty Day, but only if she'd performed well. The ads are just out of control. That's the UK headquarters. Pretty young lady. Danielle was later transferred to L. Ron Hubbard's direct command and trained to be a Commodore's messenger, his personal assistant. Whatever, I've been screaming at the top of my lungs about this one. I think she was trying to tell us something with, he ripped her top off. She says he was a dominating, erratic character and you never knew when he'd erupt. A typical narcissist. Danielle grew up as a member of Scientology, as her mother was a believer. That means indoctrinated. He didn't physically abuse me, but I feared him. During a communications drill, I was in a bull baiting session with a man. See that? More evidence of children being in ethics or being in a bull baiting session or these other punishments that children have to go through or auditing with grown-ass men. Not a recipe for disaster. Funny how Rinder never talked about that, did he? Neither did Rathburn. Mark, Mark Rathburn, not Marty, Mark. During a communication drill, I was in a bull baiting session with a man where you have to remain calm while they rile you up. While they abuse you, basically. Go look at Jesse Prince and Stacey Brooks's video showing what happens in a bull baiting session. The guy ripped my bra off. It wasn't S-U-O, but he tried to humiliate me, and it made me defiant. Can you imagine this shit, man? You see, they're giving these demons power. So many things I want to say, but I might have someone at my door if I said what I thought. Screaming for help for hours, but Danielle's defiance didn't block out her fear. So when I shade, sometimes I shade the first generation Scientologists, but you and I all know that a lot of the women were heinously abused. And there's a lot more SA reports that never came out. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. One of the most chilling things I remember was hearing a boy screaming for hours while locked up in the motorroom, she recalls. Yes, I forgot the young kid's name. He was traumatized for his entire life. The engine room, motor room, same thing. I've got it all written down somewhere, so I wanted someone to help me, but I need to go back and get that kid's name. His sister helped him, because nobody else would. He had a reputation for misbehaving. That little boy was only 10 years old, by the way. So he wasn't misbehaving. He was just being a normal, regular, little 10-year-old boy that is supposed to be protected by his parents. Don't worry, they probably were calling him banky, inturbulated. His stats were down. So they locked him up in the engine room. Yep, it's exactly what they did. Sounds like a crime. He had a reputation for misbehaving and was sent off the Apollo shortly afterwards. His sister actually saved him. I can't think of her name. I can't think of the names right now. The sister was 13 years old, and she did, I think she sent in a petition or a letter to L. Ron Hubbard to get her 10-year-old brother relieved. And the only way that he could be relieved is if she took his place, and she did. Isn't that wonderful, you guys? Any wonder why the little girls' bras were getting ripped off? He had a reputation for misbehaving and was sent off the Apollo shortly afterwards. He was a liability. He was a liability. Again, you can't tell me that some of these children didn't die on the ships, offshore, in these basements. You can't tell me that it didn't happen. And one thing about Scientology that they're good at is really covering up crimes. LAPD's okay with it. Big shock, right? I thought I might have found a way to escape by being naughty. A lot of times the only way anyone escapes is through death, unfortunately. It was hell. The rusty, wet metal smell of the ship's enormous anchor chains was nightmarish. It was hard to breathe. I was fed like an animal. See, it's the demons that like this. I know Mike Rinder was on the Apollo. I'm not saying Mike Rinder did this, but I'm just saying, whom else was on there? I think Jerry Armstrong was on there. And again, I'm not saying Jerry Armstrong did this stuff. But what I'm saying is, like, a lot of these folks never talked about these things right here. And who was it that ripped her bra off as a little girl? She must have been pretty young, because she went on the boat when she was 6. Come on, you guys. Is it any wonder the locals hated them? Should have done some voodoo magic on them. Yep, said that. Presented with an arduous filing task, Danielle seized the opportunity to rebel. Oh, where was Mom? Wait. Oh, wait, Mom was nowhere to be found, as usual. Great place for predators to just have a playground with the kids. Like their little toys, in all different ways. She says, I had this pile of knowledge reports of important information about the crew. It was up to my waist, and there was no way I was filing it. My periods had started, and I was angry about the lack of sanitary products on the ship. So I shredded all of the reports. I mean, like, the level of abuse is just... one of these decent male Scientologists couldn't go on shore and get her some pads or tampons, whatever. Sorry, you guys. It gets so sickening. Danielle was immediately locked up in the ship's hull for 3 days, which haunts her to this day. She says it was hell. The rusty, wet metal smell of the ship's enormous anchor chains was nightmarish. It was hard to breathe. Who was working for Hubbard at that time? Was Jerry Armstrong and Mike Rinder working for Hubbard at the time? And then, of course, L. Ron Hubbard surrounded himself with all these young, beautiful girls. Young. I was fed like an animal with small plates of foul rice and beans. Janice talked about that in her book. And taken out to the toilet. Now, to me, this is a weird thing to have in here, but maybe I don't know if it's the unbiasedness or what this is, but what is Scientology? Scientology became a recognized religion in the UK in 2013 after its creation in America. I don't even want to read this crap. I think they pushed it because 2 Scientologists got married in a chapel or something. It aims to clear the planet of insanity, trauma, crime, and war through its extreme practices. No, another inversion, because what they're doing is they're creating insanity in Scientology. They're creating trauma, trauma-based mind control, crime. Crime is just accepted. And they're always like pointing the finger at other people. What are your crimes? What are your crimes? Daniel says LRH knew she was resolute, and he released her from the ship. And believe me, that LRH did not release her because he had empathy. Because if you go and read some of the Moxon account, not Moxon, Meister, Susan Meister, her father went, anyways, I've read this, but her father went to recover her body. You guys, how Mr. Meister was treated was just horrendous. Even by some of the police officers, not all of them. It was awful. So that's what I'm talking about with LRH. LRH would not talk to Mr. Meister. He wouldn't talk to him. And then when Mr. Meister was leaving the boat early because he realized that it wasn't going anywhere and he was probably in danger, he just left. And of course his film was stolen. And then L. Ron Hubbard had one of the deckhands or somebody on the ship offer him like a huge payment. I forget how much money. And Mr. Meister was disgusted and he walked away. And then later they tried, some idiot, probably from Scientology, wrote Mr. Meister a really long letter stating that Susan Meister had cholera. I mean, they're just, the stories were so, like, out there. And then they accused Susan Meister of being a prostitute or being sexually promiscuous, it's all lies, and also called her a drug addict. So that's why I just wanted to bring up with LRH. She was home in October 1974, age 13. So I told you guys, this was happening to her when she was 13. ripping her bra off. That's sexual abuse. Not giving her sanitary napkins. That's another form of abuse. Neglect. She was sent home in October 1974, age 13, and went back to her schooling and evening shifts at St. Hill. Oh my God. I thought she was actually leaving. So the hell continues. I don't remember my mother being pleased to see me. Showing emotions was never encouraged in Scientology families, she says. Well, that's what the reptilian elites want people to do, to cut off your emotions and be like them. Breaking point. Here's the Magic 19 again, you guys. Ever wonder why it's the Magic 19? Because they keep the children prisoners. They won't let them leave. They do let some of them leave. I don't know if they do it anymore, but they used to. And then they would wind up being homeless, and then they'd all live together. And breaking point. Danielle was 19 when she broke free from Scientology for good. She was back in the UK working as an LRH communicator at St. Mary's Religious College in Rottingdean near Brighton when she reached breaking point. I bet Alex Barnes would be interested in this story. Danielle claims her mom, who has since passed away, had a stroke at age 42 and was prevented from having medical treatment by a Scientologist. But they will sit and deny that all day long, won't they? Danielle says she was left paralyzed. They kicked her out without any support whatsoever, despite decades of dedication. And just think about this. A lot of us are out here trying to save some of these people, right? And yes, we know a lot of people that are kind-hearted and empath. They're just going along to survive. But look at what they did to her mother. I mean, yeah, her mom definitely wasn't there for her. I was so angry and utterly devastated for her. That's when I left and never went back. So that's what it took, I guess. Danielle got a receptionist job and carved out a career in IT before getting married and having twin daughters in 1994. A time for reflection. Now happily living in Sunderland, Tyne, and Weir with her husband and grown-up daughters, Danielle sometimes still reflects on her horrific year aboard the Apollo. I might start an Apollo series. I might do that. She says, I asked my mother before she died, how could you have sent me away like that? She said, why didn't you tell me you didn't want to go? And that's how it was. Huh, that's a very narcissistic thing to say. Abdicating parental responsibilities, as usual, right? We never seem to hear anything different, do we? Parents believe they were doing the right thing. Right. A spokesperson for Scientology, the one with no name. Oh, I can't wait. Is it demonstrably false? Let me see. Danielle Chamberlain is completely discreditable. Well, at least it's a new phrase. It's usually demonstrably false. So I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night. Peace.